Hey friends, welcome to Flight Test. I'm Josh. Today we're going to be showing you how to make the FT Easy Glider. Now the FT Easy Glider is a fantastic first project whether you're just getting in the hobby, want to play toss with your friends, or want to do a school activity or community activity where you build and fly free flight gliders. Now this is very simple. We have free downloadable plans, or you can choose to support us by going to the store and actually getting a 5-pack of these. Let's go ahead and get our materials in order and get started. So before we go ahead and pop out all of our pieces, let's go ahead and identify them first. We have our main wing, our main fuselage piece, the doublers for our fuselage, our elevator, our rudder, and our dihedral gauges. Let's go ahead and start on our wings first. So we're going to pop out our wing and our dihedral gauges. For all of our friends scratch building out there, once again, with our free plans, black is cut through, score is red, and blue is an indicator line or a crease line. So we have our 2 dihedral gauges. I'm going to go ahead and put these to the side, and the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and prep the wing to be assembled. To do this, we're going to clear out some certain areas and cavities so the wing can fold together properly. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this little Best Buy gift card here. We're going to be showing you how to do this complete build without the use of any razor blades, but if you're older and you're used to razor blades, feel free to substitute a gift card for a razor. We're going to go ahead and drag this down to the bottom level of the paper in this area right here. Once we've done that, we can flip this over 180 degrees and then carefully remove the piece of foam from the paper. It's really important that we keep the bottom piece of paper intact. Now if you choose to use a razor blade instead of a gift card, make sure you dull the tip of your razor blade. This is easily done by taking it to a cinder block or a concrete floor and dragging it a couple times. Go ahead and take a test piece of foam to make sure that the razor blade doesn't cut all the way through, and you're all set. Now that we have this cavity cleared out, we're going to go ahead and take this marker. Again, you can use your razor blade and do a double bevel cut, but we want you to be able to not have to use razor blades. We're going to drag it right through the seam that you see here. Don't try to do this in one complete movement. Go back a couple times. What we're doing is we're crushing this edge so it easily folds over onto itself. Just like that. Now if you're choosing to use a razor blade, all you need to do is simply fold this 180 degrees over. Extend your razor blade to about 1.5 inches long. Hold it at a 45-degree angle, keeping the bottom edge just above the paper, and then drag it through. Notice that I'm keeping my knife at not a 90-degree angle, but about a 45-degree angle. Notice I'm keeping my thumbs away, and I'm not worried about getting it perfect the first time because I can always go over a couple times to get it just right. This part's not going to be seen, so don't worry about it. When cutting your 45-degree bevel, just make sure you don't go through the paper on the center. If you do, don't worry because you can always repair it with a piece of tape on the other side. So our wing is now ready to be folded together. Go ahead and make sure that your wing looks just like this before we move on to the next step. So to prepare the spar area, we're going to fold this over 180 degrees, and this is going to create our spar. The spar gives us rigidity on the wing and also helps form the airfoil. Once we are happy with the way it seats, we can take our hot glue gun, and we can put just a simple stripe right down the middle. Avoid putting glue near these lines. Go ahead and fold this over 180 degrees. Notice that I'm keeping that back end nice and perpendicular. And hold it down for about 45 seconds. Once your spar is fully dry, we're going to go ahead and start forming our airfoil. Now for this, we want to use our whole hand, not just our fingertips. We're never going to push down hard on the foam and focus pressure or dent the foam. So now we're going to go ahead and fold this up, and we're going to go nice and slow using the whole part of our hand, and we're going to press the wing down into shape just like you see here. If this resists you too much, you can always go back and crush this edge even more. Once it folds over nicely, we're going to go ahead and take our hot glue gun, making sure we have plenty of hot glue in it. We're going to go ahead and put the tip of our glue against the score cut and put a very light bead of glue down into the score cut. This is going to help us form the wing and have it hold its form when we bend it over. This doesn't have to be perfect, but what we're going to do now is we're going to fold this over before the glue dries, and we're going to go ahead and hold this down into place. Notice that I'm kind of bouncing it back and forth because I don't want the top surface of the wing to glue against the spar quite yet. I just want it to hold its form. Okay, about 45 seconds has gone by, and you're going to notice that my wing now has an established shape that is perfect. Our next step is to take our hot glue gun and focusing first on the leading edge where we crush that paper in, we're going to put a bead. Second, we're going to go ahead and put a stripe right down the middle. Avoid putting glue near these lines. I got a little bit there. And now we're going to once again go ahead and fold that over. This time we're going to put most of our pressure right along this top spar from here to here. Notice I'm never pushing down with my fingertips. I'm always using the flats of my hands. And I'm always folding the wing over together as one common surface, not just one end or the other. We're going to wait about 45 seconds, and at any time you start lifting this up and it starts spreading apart, that means the glue is not fully dry. Give it a little bit more time. After 45 seconds is complete, you'll notice if you lift this up, it doesn't open up or clamshell open. That's exactly what we want. So right now we have an airfoil, but we don't have stability in that airfoil because we don't have our dihedral yet. We're going to be putting polyhedral, which means we have two different breaks in the wing, giving us a self-righting tendency. To get the right angle here, we're going to flip this up with the leading edge going away from us, and we're going to go ahead and take our dihedral gauges and put one on each wingtip. Focusing on one wingtip at a time, I'm going to go ahead and support with my right hand the main section of the wing, and with my left hand I'm just going to fold this up, just like you see here. Now this should fold pretty easy for you if you went ahead and built along with us. If it's resistant, you may have a little bit of glue here where you may have to take a razor blade or your gift card and kind of separate it, just like that. Once you're happy with the way the wing folds up and you have your dihedral, make sure that your wing gauge doesn't have to resist it too much. If it has to resist it too much, just go ahead and rock it a couple more times and it'll slowly kind of crush in, so this is very easy to put in place. Once you're happy with that, we're going to go take that off. We're going to take our hot glue gun, and I'm going to put a nice thin bead of hot glue right on this top surface. For this step, it's always really easy to have a little piece of scrap foam handy, because when we lift this up, a little glue is going to squeeze out. And now what we can do is scrape off any excess. Now we're going to take our time and we're going to give this a good minute to dry. So once again, just like when we folded the wing over and we were checking to see if it was dry, if we can remove this piece and this piece doesn't fall open, we're in good shape. Now before we move on to the next step, let's go ahead and give this a little bit more strength with a piece of Scotch tape. Place that right down on the top, fold it over, and we're ready to do the same process on the other side. So just like before, we're going to go ahead and start slowly just rocking this up, kind of let it establish its area. You can always go back in if you have to. If you have any glue globs, and just kind of open that up with a gift card, and we'll stand this up just like you see here. Once we're happy with that, thin bead of glue right on the top. Notice I'm just pushing it down into that foam. Not too much, not too little. More glue doesn't mean more strength. We'll take our scrap piece of foam and smooth it out. Alright, we got another minute to wait. You can also hum You Are My Sunshine 2 times in your head, and that'll be just about the right amount of time. That's perfect. Alright, one last thing to do, just give a little bit of strength through tape. We now have a fully completed wing. We're ready to move on to our next step, which is to build the fuselage. So for the fuselage, we're going to go ahead and gather all the pieces we need. Once again, here's our main section of the fuselage, and here are our two doublers. For this portion, that's all you need. We're going to go ahead and take our little gift card here, and I'm going to drag this along, just like I did before, and push right down to the paper. Notice I'm focusing on the areas that are about the width of the foam. A little secret is if you see something about the width of the foam, that's most likely a cavity that's going to be folded on. Next, we're going to go ahead and fold this 180 degrees, and we're going to take our time and we're going to carefully remove each channel. If the foam doesn't come out nice and clean, don't worry, you can always scrape it clean, but it may also be an indication that you just need to drag it through a couple more times. Now our channels are open, but there's a couple pieces we want to still address. We're going to go ahead and crack this and pull this off, and also this little section right here in the middle. We're going to just open this up and roll this out with our thumbs. And while we're at it, I'm just going to go ahead and take my little gift card. I'm going to pop this piece out here, and our piece for where the rudder tab's in. There we go. Go go ahead and take a moment and make sure your piece looks just like this. So now that we have all of our channels and our pieces removed, we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue our doublers in right over the etch lines that you see on your kit. Now on your plan, this is going to be indicated as a blue line. Easiest way to do this, just put a little bit of glue right down on each one. I always like to try to do one at a time, because that way your attention's not divided between two pieces and you can make sure each one is nice. If you concentrate on making sure every piece that you put down is lined and square, you're going to have a really great build. There we go. We'll just line it up, take our time. And we're going to let that dry for about 45 seconds. Our next step in completing the fuselage is we're going to do a BFold. You're going to notice this little emblem here on our plans, it's in blue, saying B. Notice that the side plates are beside the bottom plate. That's exactly the orientation that we're going to be folding this fuselage. So the easiest way to accomplish a B-fold is to leave the bottom plate firmly against the table and to roll the side plate up against it. Do this while pushing down on the table. That will keep the side plate firmly against the bottom. You're going to notice with this kit, if you try to raise it up, it's just not going to feel natural. This piece is going to kind of be wrinkled and pulled. So make sure that everything folds natural and looks just like what you see in this diagram here. Now that we're happy with the way that the B-fold looks, I'm going to go ahead and concentrate my glue about 1/4 inch in from both sides and also on the side of the bottom plate. Notice I'm not putting a ton of glue, just a little bit. Once we're happy with that, I'm going to rotate this up. I'm going to hold it at 90 degrees and I'm going to give it about 45 seconds to dry. If you still have your little gift card handy, you can hold this right at the end to make sure it's nice and square and perpendicular. Alright, once our first half is done, we're going to go ahead and do the exact same process on the other half. I'm going to go ahead and focus down my glue, once again starting and stopping about 1/4 inch from the edge. Bottom plate firmly against the table, side plate folded up. We'll use our little Best Buy gift card here as a gauge. Now we do have a crafty kit that gives you razor blades and triangles, it gives you hot glue guns, glue stick, and everything you need to build all of our kits. If you don't have these materials, you can check it out on the link below. So now that we have our two side plates up, let's go ahead and fold this over, completing the box of our fuselage. Notice we still haven't touched the bottom plate. We'll do that in a minute. That looks good. I always like to turn this over on the table, make sure it's nice and square. Wonderful. Now for this step, we're going to go ahead and put glue on both sides. To do this, I'm going to focus my glue on the side of the top plate, starting and stopping about 1/4 inch, and then also on the other side. I'm going to let my glue spread down between the paper and the foam. We're going to go ahead and just like closing the door, we're going to fold this shut. Now what I like to do is I like to count to about 15 seconds and then just kind of move it just a little bit. Just in case a little bit of glue squeezes out, it won't glue it to the table. Give us about 45 seconds and you're all set for the next step. Alright. Our next piece we're going to address is going to be the back of our bottom plate. We've already seen that it fits nice and neat, so I can go ahead and put my glue, again focusing right between the paper and the foam, starting and stopping about 1/4 inch. We're going to shut this just like we shut a door, and once again we're going to use the table as our friend and press down firmly. I always like to come back with something that's square and make sure that it's nice and square on both sides. So now we're going to go ahead and put our attention towards the front of the nose here. You're going to notice that we have score cuts all along here and open cavities on both ends. I always like to give a little quick test fit, so I'm going to go ahead and rock this forward. We're going to fold this over, and then we're going to continue rocking it forward all the way to the top. You're going to notice that each score cut lines up with each angle here. Now we don't want to glue this all at once, we only want to glue one at a time, and we're also going to not glue this portion here because we need this to be our hatch. So let's go ahead, now that we're happy with the way everything fits, we'll go one edge at a time. I want lots of strength here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on the bottom of the doubler on both sides, only one section. I'm just going to go ahead and seal this little guy right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and put glue on both sides. Notice that I'm stopping about 1/4 inch from each side. I'm going to take this down to the table, and we're only going to fold to the first section. We're going to give this about 35 to 45 seconds. We're going to go ahead and do our next section now. glue on both sides. A little bit where it creases, and glue on the bottom of the doubler. Back down to the table. Notice that I'm always taking my foam to the table here. This gives us a nice square joint, but it also gives us something to push down against so everything's strong and square. Yeah, tables don't get blisters. Our next section here, I'm simply going to go ahead and put a little glue on this paper. Be careful around that because the heat will pass through. And once again, right on the two doublers, only on one joint at a time. Now I'm going to fold this over 90 degrees, right down to the other piece. After our 45 seconds has passed, you're going to notice that we have this nice little hatch here. This is where we're going to be putting our nose weight so that the airplane will balance properly. But we have one more bevel here, but you're going to notice it's a blue line or just an etch cut. This is so we can crease this, not necessarily glue it. We do want to do something though. We're going to go ahead and put a little drop of glue to reinforce this hinge, and we're also going to go ahead and glue over this top piece to finish off the edge and give it a little bit more durability. To reinforce our hinge, all we need to do is just put a little drop of glue down right here, take a scrap piece of foam, and smooth it out. Give this about 30 seconds to dry. For the tip of our hatch right here, all we need to do is put a little drop of glue right on the edge. We're going to take this to the table, give it about 15 to 20 seconds, and then we're going to fold it up against the table. Once again, to make sure that the glue doesn't dry, go ahead and just give it a little bit of a rock, make sure it doesn't adhere. Now with your nose complete, what you're going to notice is if you did everything right, you should be able to push this hatch close and it'll stay shut on its own. Your fuselage is now done. We're ready to move on to the next step, which is to put our tail on and our wing on. So we have our fuselage in this step, we have our elevator, and we have our vertical stabilizer or rudder. The elevator gives us pitch control and stability on pitch. Our rudder gives us stability on the vertical line and also our yaw control. To prep this, all I need to do is just simply pop out the center pieces. And I'm also going to take this score line and face it down against the table. Our next step is to give the elevator and rudder a test fit. I'm going to slide this in, just like you see here. And if I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and glue it in place. Take a little scrap piece of foam, wipe off the excess. I'm just going to take my gift card and make sure it stays nice and square. Now that everything's glued together, we're going to go ahead and place this down on our fuselage by taking the tab through the bottom slot and rocking it until it's firmly against the bottom. You're going to see the bottom of the rudder pop out to act as a skid. Now in some of our FT STEM projects, we actually have where the students can build a different tail. If you're doing the STEM project, you don't actually need to glue the elevator and rudder in place. You can actually pass a barbecue skewer through and key it in. For this, I'm going to be tossing it with my friends. I want it to be nice and durable, so I'm going to go ahead and take my hot glue gun. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on both sides. Once again, I can come back, a little squeegee off the excess. So we have our fuselage done. Let's go ahead and take our barbecue skewer now. Pass the barbecue skewers through the holes that are on the kit itself. I'm going to pass this through. I'm going to leave about the width of a finger on each side. And then with a razor blade or with a pair of scissors, I can simply score the edge and crack it loose. I'm going to have two pieces the exact same size. So let's go ahead and make those now. So there's one, and there's two. So now we're going to go ahead and take our two rubber bands that were supplied in our kit, and you're going to notice that we have two little notches and two center of gravity dots right here. We're going to take our two notches, line them up with the fuselage like you see here, and we're simply going to go ahead and rubber band our wing on. You want your wing to be nice and centered so the plane will fly straight. So now our airframe looks complete, but it truly will not fly until we do one final step, and that is to adjust the center of gravity. For every airplane, you need to have the center of gravity proper, because if it's too nose heavy, it'll fly like a dart, and if it's too tail heavy, it'll just kind of flip through the air. To get our center of gravity where we want it, we're going to take this 1 ounce sticky back metal weight, and we're going to move it back and forth until our center of gravity is proper. The easiest way to tell is we're just going to place this down loose. I'm going to move it all the way forward, and I'm going to put my 2 fingers right over the dots on the wing. I'm going to hold this up, and what I'm looking for is for it to be level or slightly nose down. Once we're happy with where that is, we can go ahead and remove the tape and stick it in place. Now, if you're unsure about where your center of gravity should be, or you want to change the characteristics, you can simply tape this inside of your fuselage, and that way it's adjustable for later. For this one, I know that's all the way up in the nose, and that's right where I'm going to put it. There we go. Alright, I'm going to close the hatch. Our next step is the fun part. We get to go play toss with a friend and adjust the elevator and the rudder to make it fly as far as possible. Alright, Alex, go long. Awesome. Now, if your plane pitches down, you can simply bend the elevator up just a little bit, and if the plane pitches up, you can bend the elevator down a little bit, or adjust your center of gravity again. Now, friends, a quick tip whenever you're launching a plane is you don't throw it like a football where you Hail Mary it. You throw it like a dart. So I'm looking right now at where I want to toss it to. In this case, it's Alex's chest, and I'm going to throw it right towards it. All right. I want to thank you for being part of the Flite Test family. Also, flight is magical, whether it's RC or whether it's free flight. One thing we're really passionate about and we want to see you do is create, build, and fly together. I hope this is a fun inspiration for you. I hope you take on this challenge, and please feel free to check out our other builds as you get more and more accomplished. We'll see you next time.